call the meeting of the Novi Community School District regular meeting Thursday, June 18th to order. I would like to welcome everybody to our virtual meeting. And Mr. Mena, if we can get a roll call of our board members, that would be great.
Certainly. Trustee Cook?
Here.
Trustee Hood?
Here.
Trustee Mena? Here. Trustee Murphy?
Here.
Trustee Roney?
Here.
Trustee Ruskin?
Here.
Trustee Smith?
Here.
Thank you. If we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Actually, we might just want to have somebody lead us through it next time.
Right.
It's like a big echo having
a lot
seven.
Of background. Yes, I agree.
So thank you, Bobby.
Okay, so next we have a public hearing tonight on our agenda for the 2020-2021 budget. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. The state requires that all school districts adopt a budget for the upcoming fiscal year by June 30th of each year. The process of adoption includes a notice for budget public hearing, which must appear in the local newspaper at least 6 days prior to the hearing, and that the budget document, including the proposed property tax millage rate, must be available for public inspection. The public hearing on the budget and the property millage tax rate proposed to be levied to support the proposed budget must then take place, and then the board adopts the budget. This year, the public hearing is scheduled for Thursday, June 20th, 2020, or actually it's Thursday, June 18th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. at the regular board meeting of the Board of Education. A notice of the public hearing appeared in the newspaper, and the budget document was made available for public inspection online and at the Educational Services Building. Following board adoption of the budget, the business office will post the budget on the district's website. So the public hearing is now open for anyone who wants to make a statement about the 2020-2021 proposed budget.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews.
It does not appear that there's anyone who wants to make a comment on the budget. Let me do one thing to check on our, make sure there's no comments on the budget on the Google response page, and there are not, so there are no comments, Dr. Ruskin.
Okay, so with that, then the public hearing is now closed. Thank you. We will move. I think I missed something, so I'm going to circle back up. We need to approve the agenda for this evening, so if I can get a motion, please.
I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mr. Cook. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cook?
Yes.
Trustee Hood?
Yes.
Trustee Mena? Yes. Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Roney?
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin?
Yes.
And Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Next up, we have comments from the audience related to agenda items. So this is an opportunity for anyone in the audience, either via Google or on the Zoom call here, to make a comment with anything specific to our agenda this evening. Mr. Mena will have the timer. I think there is a 5-minute time limit per comment. This is not an opportunity for back and forth conversation, but just for community members to share their concerns or questions or comments or statements. So if we have any comments from the audience, please, if you're on the call, raise your hand, or Dr. Matthews, if you've received anything on the Google document, you can let us know. Thank you.
On the Google Doc, there are no comments related to the agenda.
Thank you. And I see no hand raising here or nothing in the chat, so we will move on. Okay. Next up, we have the consent agenda. We have one item on our consent agenda this evening. It is the regular meeting minutes of June 4th, 2020. If I can get a motion, Mr. Cook?
I move that the Novi Community School Board of Education approve the consent item as presented.
Support.
Support.
By Mr. Cook and supported by Mrs. Murphy. Mr. Mena, if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Sorry, did you say Mrs. Murphy on support?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. We will move to our action items. First on our list of action items this evening, we have our personnel report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. I will turn to Dr. Kinzer.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. This evening on our personnel report, we have 2 resignations and 2 retirements. First, the resignations. Gabriella Franciosi, social worker at Novi Woods, and Joseph Pruchnik, special education teacher at the Novi Adult Transition Center. 2 retirements, Julie Hornacek, secretary at Novi Meadows, and Carrie Reichley, administrative assistant at Novi Meadows.
Thank you, Dr. Kinzer. If I can get a motion. Mrs. Roney?
I'll make a motion that the Novi Community School Board of Education adopts the personnel report recommended as presented.
Support. No, you were on mute.
I was?
Yep.
Oh,
At least you cut out it for that.
okay. I'll get closer to my microphone. Maybe we can turn it up a little, Sheila, the microphone. So Mrs. Roney made the motion. Mr. Mena made the support. Is there any comments regarding the personnel report? That's better.
I'm always sad to see good people leave, and I can't believe Carrie Reichley's old enough to retire because I think she's my age, which always makes me feel old. But I know she was at Deerfield for a while with my kids and then at Meadows, and I know she has been in the district a long time and has sent her kids through school, and I'm sure we're going to miss some of those people and their institutional knowledge.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. My kids, all 3 went through Deerfield, and all 3 had Carrie. And right about the time they moved to the 5th and 6th grade, Carrie transferred to that building. So, you know, I've grown up with Carrie for a number of years, and she's been a great, I think, a great resource for our school district. So sad to see her go.
I agree. I think that Julie and Carrie do great things over there at Novi Meadows. So it will be sad to see them go, but we appreciate their service and look forward to seeing what the journey holds next. Yes, Mrs. Murphy?
I just realized, didn't we approve one other one last week from Novi Meadows as well?
Bridget, we did.
So is there anybody left? There's one.
Yeah, Mrs. Laura Lloyd, yeah,
Okay.
is still
Okay.
there.
Okay, well, let's pray she stays because I think they might need someone to help in the transitions. So, anyways, I sadly will agree to.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, Mr. Mena, if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
0. Thank you. Next, we will move on to our next action item, which is the 2019-2020 final budget amendment. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. On March 19th, 2020, the Board of Education adopted the First Amendment to the 2019-2020 General Fund budget. A final amendment to the budget reflecting all the changes known at this time has been created and presented to the Board of Education. The 2019-20 final budget amendment was presented for information and discussion at the regular meeting of the board on June 4th, 2020, and is recommended for approval per the attached resolution tonight. And Deanna Wheeler is on our meeting, or at our meeting tonight. If you have additional questions on the 2019-2020 final budget amendment, but as you recall, our final budget amendment will have an ending fund balance for the district of 11.91%. And we will carry that into the 2020-2021 school year. And so we would ask the board to approve our final budget amendment this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. If I can get a recommendation from the board, a board member, Mrs. Hood? Mrs. Hood?
Yeah, I move that the 2019-20 final budget amendment as presented be approved by the Novi Community School District Board of Education per the attached resolution.
Support.
Recommendation by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mr. Smith. Do we have any questions from Deanna or concerns?
There are plenty of concerns, Dr. Ruskin.
I know. Okay, maybe I should just say, do we have any questions for Deanna?
No, I've got a comment. Deanna, you put in a lot of hard work in doing all this year after year, and we really appreciate it. You've had a couple other people above you that has guided you, but you're the one doing the layman's work. So we appreciate you and thank you.
Thank you.
And we know that too. People have always told us who is doing stuff behind the scenes. So
It hasn't been a secret. Mrs. Murphy, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to ask Deanna, do we get any further guidance on whether we're going to have to amend this again?
For the 1920 budget?
Well, I guess given the scenario that we may be underfunded for this year.
So we still have no guidance as to whether or not there's going to be a change for the July and August state aid payments.
Okay.
We'll not be able to amend the 1920 budget. We would have to do that in the 2021 budget.
Okay, that will be weird and awkward, but okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There is a state law that requires that if they are going to do a proration, they have to give 30 days notice, and they have not posted anything for the July state aid payment. And so we get our July state aid payment on July 20th. And so they would have to do that fairly quickly to post that they would prorate that in July, if indeed they're going to do that. And then if they miss July, they would have to do it in August and take the full prorated amount out of the August state aid payment. And depending on your budget scenario that you look at, that is about a $700 per student deficit for this year, for the 1920 school year. So that would be approximately $4 million for us. And our state aid payment is approximately $4 million.
So they have 2 more days for the July payment, is that correct? And then 1 more payment in August?
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Seeing none, I think that we are ready to vote. Mr. Mena?
Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Our next action item is the 2020-2021 preliminary budget. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. The state requires that all school districts adopt a budget for the upcoming fiscal year by June 30th of each year. The proposed budget document for the 2020-2021 fiscal year has been prepared based on projections and estimates, including student enrollment, which will be known at a later date. The proposed budget document is presented to the board tonight for review. Budget adoption process for an upcoming fiscal year must include a public budget hearing, a notice of such public hearing, which must appear in the local newspaper at least 6 days prior to the hearing, a budget document made available to the public for inspection, including the proposed property tax millage rate, and board adoption of the budget in the form of a 2020-2021 General Appropriations Act resolution. Once the public budget hearing has taken place, the board adopts the budget. This year, the public hearing was held on Thursday, June 18, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. at the regular meeting of the Board of Education. The notice appeared in the local newspaper on Thursday, June 4th, 2020, and the budget document was available for public inspection at the Educational Services Building beginning Friday, June 5th, 2020. The proposed budget document was presented to the board tonight for review at the June 4th, 2020 regular meeting of the board, with the adoption in the form of a 2020-2021 General Appropriations Act resolution that was attached and is attached again this evening. So we would recommend that the board adopt this preliminary budget for the 2020-21 school year, recognizing that this budget is going to change dramatically at some point. We have estimated a $700 per student reduction in our 2020-2021 budget document. We will address that reduction by having a 5% reduction overall in our salary bucket, and also a 25% reduction in our non-salary items in the district. This will get us down to the budget document identifies a 9.97 fund balance. I sent the board information earlier today that identified that in the years past, all of our preliminary budgets, the audit has come in a little higher after the final fund balance was known. And so we anticipate that will happen again this year. That will take that over the 10% threshold. But recognize that at this point, we have had no guidance from the state. They have not indicated what their plan is as we move forward. And so we really are kind of operating in the dark. But state law requires that we have a budget final or a proposed budget approved by the board before June 30th. And so we present this tonight to the board, recognizing that it will change significantly as we move forward. Deanna Wheeler is again here. She presented the budget document to us on June 4th. And as Mr. Cook has mentioned, she did a great deal of work related to preparing both our final budget amendments and this proposed budget. And I appreciate the board recognizing all the effort that she gave. So we present this tonight and would ask the board to approve it, recognizing that this budget document will change significantly as we move forward and get more detail from the state of Michigan.
We can't hear you, Dr. Ruskin.
You can't? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can now.
Okay. Mr. Mena?
Yeah, I move that the board adopt the general appropriations resolution for the fiscal year 2021 as presented.
I'll support.
Recommended by Mr. Mena and supported by Mrs. Roney. Any comments? Mrs. Murphy?
I'll just reiterate some thanks to Deanna, because it sounds like this is a lot of work that might kind of be for naught. I hope not. I hope this is, not for naught, but really it could be that we have to redo a significant portion of it. So appreciate you hanging in there with it and completing it to the best of our ability at this point.
Mrs. Hood?
I just wanted to reiterate that too. I have not thanked Deanna publicly for all the work that she has done, and just picked this up midstream, owning it. She's done a fabulous job, and she knows the numbers backwards and forwards. So Deanna, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Together to try and figure out such a complex situation with a lot of blindness and a lot of unknowns at this time. So we appreciate all the work that's put into this and the efforts that you have to try to keep us at that 10% fund balance. So any other comments? Okay, I think we're ready for a vote, Mr. Mena.
Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Such an agreeable group.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Mena. Next, we have our federal COVID funding support resolution. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. In March 2020, the governor of Michigan declared a state of emergency caused by the coronavirus. Michigan school districts were required to cancel in-person instruction, but by being innovative and focused, provided distance learning for students. Providing a quality education while maintaining safe conditions for students and staff in the upcoming school year will cause districts to face new expenses and challenges as listed in the attached resolution. As a result of this pandemic, the economic at both the state and federal levels have suffered greatly, placing enormous pressure on state budgets, including the school aid fund. As a result, this will create a severe budget shortfall for local school districts, potentially of at least $650 per student for this current school year and also for the upcoming school year. This shortfall will make it difficult to provide a high-quality education, access to technology, and safety for both students and staff. This resolution was presented at a regular meeting of the board on June 4th, 2020 for information and discussion, and it comes to the board tonight for adoption. And so we would ask the board that they would support this resolution that calls on Congress to provide needed funds for local governments, including school districts, so that we can continue to support the students in our district.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Okay, please get a recommendation. Mrs. Murphy?
I'd be happy to make the recommendation that the Novi Community School District Board of Education supports the passage of legislation by the U.S. Congress appropriating needed funds to be distributed to states and local districts with maximum flexibility to fill budget gaps during the state of emergency, and urges congressional action to provide additional funding for the highly successful E-rate program, which helps schools ensure connectivity for online learning by adopting the attached resolution that shall be transmitted to our governor and to all our members of the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate representing the families in our district.
I support.
Okay. Recommendation by Mrs. Murphy and supported by Mrs. Hood. Any questions, concerns, comments before we go to vote? Mr. Mena?
Just reiterating, me being somebody who's not a big fan of resolutions, I do think that this is one that, Dr. Matthews laughing at me, because he knows, I think this is one we can get behind. And, you know, let's see how it turns out.
Thank you, Mr. Mena. Seeing none, I think we're ready for a vote. Mr. Mena?
Okay, Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
and Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Thank you, everybody. Next up, we have our technology purchase mobile device solution. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. The Instructional Technology Department recommends the refresh of staff computing devices for the future. We have identified a strong need for our staff to have agile and mobile technology devices to support student learning and district operations. We discovered that the Chromebooks had limitations to support instructional staff as they provided remote learning opportunities for our students. In order to be prepared for the 2020-2021 school year, the administration is recommending the following phase 1 purchase as part of the district's device refresh program. Each instructional staff member will be provided an HP Elite Book 360/830 convertible 2-in-1 laptop with digital inking capabilities. During phase 1, staff will retain existing desktop computers through the 2020-2021 school year. During the summer of 2021, the plan is to implement the laptop as the teacher's workstation in the classroom. Each administrative staff member will be provided an HB Elite Book 360/830 convertible 2-in-1, same as educators package, to replace their existing desktop computers. The package consists of a laptop, 2 monitors, a docking station, and a wireless keyboard and mouse. The administration is recommending the Board of Education approve the following purchases and project contingency from Capital Projects Bond, the 2014 fund, in the total amount of $557,864.10. Don't forget the 10 cents. The purchase recommendations are as follows. Award to Enacomp TSG in the amount of $512,164.10. HP laptop computers, monitors, wireless keyboards, and mice. This is a RIMC cooperative bid pricing. An award to Apple Inc. for iPad, tablets, cables, and chargers in the amount of $35,700. And this again is a RIMC cooperative bid pricing. A $10,000 contingency is included in the total project cost for devices, iPad cases, adapters, and cables that may be identified to support hardware purchases and staffing changes that may occur before the start of the school year. The recommendation comes before the board tonight for approval. As I mentioned to the board last week in a communication, this comes to the board for action because we need to get this approved so that we can order these computers to get them in time for the start of the 2020-2021 school year. We have Dr. Weber here tonight. We also have Anthony, who is our instructional design coach. I'm not sure your official title, Anthony. I apologize. And we also have Maz here, who is the supervisor from Oakland Schools in the technology area. So all 3 of them are here to answer questions, but I will turn this to Dr. Weber, who can give some additional insight. Dr. Weber.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Dr. Matthews. I'm here with Anthony Lacricchio and Jeff Maz, 2 folks who I gave a ridiculous timeline to. And they were amazing in doing their due diligence to find these devices. Jeff and Anthony have a presentation Jeff actually does. So Sheila, I'm going to ask for that share screen capability. Jeff, if you'd like to go ahead and pop that up, or if Sheila has it, please. Thank you. So let me set the table before Jeff and Anthony take this away. There's a couple different things going on here with this. One thing is our 2014 bond, and some of you were here for that, still has funds in it that we could tap into to use for this particular purchase, which would then leave us more room in the 19 bond. So what we discovered from our remote learning efforts is that the teacher Chromebooks that the board approved for purchase, thank goodness, prior to the COVID, were essential in helping our teachers to teach from home. However, we ran into real limitations of power. And I know this is kind of a trustee Mena's world, so he'll get this and maybe can explain it to us with Jeff and Anthony, but there just wasn't enough to the actual devices to host the level of Zoom meetings and the screencasting and the writing on the screen and all of these pieces. So we were looking at things, and we have our plan to refresh our desktop computers to begin with next year. And then the thought hit us, what if we went ahead and got mobile devices with plenty of horsepower for our staff? But this would also predicate a move that we have been intending to make now for a number of years, which is to move away from desktop computers in classrooms to provide more pedagogical agility. So simply in layperson's terms, what that means is rather than a teacher having to be at a desk near the monitor or wherever their computer is, they're able to be around the entire classroom with their primary device. And then the second piece is from administrators, and we're going to talk about the administrator package. There's no way that we would expect our teachers to do something our administrators weren't doing. So our administrators will also be going mobile. And the only department really that will be different will be the business and finance department. We just feel like we need some hard, secure devices within our own office, as well as the ability, if we have to go back out, for them to take them. Which then leads to the final leg of this three-legged stool, if you will. And this is not going to require an additional purchase, but we will be going one-to-one with our students this fall, or a BYO policy. And COVID has certainly accelerated this process. What we found, we had to do 8 device distributions, for instance, for our community. And we just wanted to be prepared. A number of you on the board who maybe remember Dr. Matthews and I being fairly adamant against a one-to-one student initiative 5 to 6 years ago. The reason that we are now for it is our learning management system is in place. So we use Schoology 712. Seesaw K6. We have the training and the platforms now in place to utilize those devices. The reason that Dr. Matthews and I were against purchasing one-to-one devices without the ecosystem in place is it was our concern that we didn't want our laptops or devices to simply turn into digital worksheets. And I mean that respectfully. So that's where we are now. And I don't know a ton about these computers, but they look really fast to me. And thank God we have smart people like Anthony and Jeff. And I know, again, this is part of Willie's world. So Maz, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. If you and Anthony could please take it away and explain to the board the choices you made. And before I mute myself again, I need to say these two men and their team absolutely got after it. They had about a week to really do the due diligence, the research, to make the calls, to look at the devices, to test some pieces and so on. And I did leave out the document camera thing. So Jeff, perhaps you could talk about that as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Weber. So the slideshow we have is just a couple slides to help the board and the community understand some of the history that we have throughout Novi with the 2014 bond and moving forward. So under the 2014 bond, like Dr. Weber said, we procured about 6,500 devices for students in the district. So that puts us at a one-to-one, probably just a little over a one-to-one when we look at some of the spares and unallocated devices. So we've had a substantial investment in our student computing devices. During the last bond issue, we had conversations with staff trying to talk about what their preferred device was. And it's important to have this conversation because it's a short 5 years ago that through a number of bond committee planning and curriculum planning meetings, Dr. Weber and Wanda Ciancio and a number of others talked to staff about the choice between a mobile device and a desktop computer. At that time, the choice was overwhelming in favor of a desktop computer. Fast forward to 2019, and things have started to change. We saw and noticed a trend a little bit of our staff needing more mobile devices. So they were borrowing the student devices out of the laptop carts when they attended meetings, a little bit more mobility. Google Classroom becomes a little bit more robust. Our learning management system is implemented and teachers are becoming more mobile in their classrooms, in their way they're working. So we were able to give staff members in the fall a Chromebook to help them replicate what their students were using and experiencing. Thank goodness we did, because March of 20, the COVID pandemic kicked in, and we were fortunate that all of our instructional staff had Chromebooks that they were able to use at home to start to support learning from home. We did find a number of feedback from staff members that were having difficulty when you try to record Zoom meetings, try to create math lessons on a Chromebook where you didn't have full inking capabilities, annotation of the writing process. A number of teachers were requesting document cameras, which didn't always work well with Chromebooks from a connectivity standpoint. So we had a lot of challenges to support the Chromebook and fully implement a work from home, learning from home model. We also distributed about 700 Chromebooks to our students throughout the pandemic. So while we're fortunate in Novi, we still have a number of students that did not have enough devices to support home learning. And I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. We've surveyed our students and had a good data set that showed students had devices. What we uncovered is students didn't have enough devices, that 3 and 4 student households were sharing a singular device. So when you're doing learning from home, that's where the barrier starts to get in, is a single student sharing a laptop, or it's their parents' laptop. So during a normal school year, they might be able to do it at home. But when you're learning during the day and parents are working from home during the day, sharing a device amongst 4 people just does not work. So that helped drive some of our conversations forward. And we're really starting to look at shifting our focus and moving to more agility and adaptability. We know snow days are prevalent in Michigan. We know the pandemic is projected to have some cycles to it, which we may have to adapt to next school year. And we want to be prepared so that our staff and our students have the necessary tools so we don't have a blip in learning, and provide those opportunities for all of our students. So we're really looking at this at a multi-phase approach. And it's 4 phases. The first 2 are the ones that we're really focused on to get going for next school year. And then the other 2 will happen during the school year. So the phase 1 is getting the staff computing devices and enabling them to have the right tool regardless of where student learning takes place. The HP laptop has been used in a number of districts. It was on the state cooperative bid this year. It's a powerful, full functioning laptop. It's hard to show you through my camera, but it's a very nice, fully functional flip laptop where you will have a pen available. You can use the Office suite and write on the screen, annotate over PDFs, and really use that integration within the device. Part 2, as Dr. Weber talked about, is providing our students with computing devices. And we realized through our survey, a number of students have devices. The challenge is balancing that with those students that don't. So as Dr. Weber said, we want to do a BYOD, one-to-one hybrid, and try to make sure we have the opportunity for students to get devices that need it. Some of the students through surveys were using mobile phones as their primary tool. That's not necessarily the best for all of the engagement that we're looking for. So really working in the fall and getting the devices available to students in a distributed model for those students that need it, while giving choice to those students that may have a preferred device, maybe a little bit more robust, maybe they're in a CAD program or a high-tech need and they already have a laptop, they'll be able to use that in school or at home. And then phases 3 and 4 look at the school and learning environment. As we start to think about the classroom of the future, what do we need to have in place to support mobility and agility within the classroom as we return to a learning at school model? And then the implementation of those solutions. So phase 3 is going to involve more evaluation, more input from our staff as we can throughout the fall, and then making recommendations and designing that future classroom through the 2019 bond projects to really be prepared. That's a quick kind of where we are, where we're planning to go. When we take a look at the instructional devices, as I said, this is an HP convertible. It's used in a couple of our other field districts. We've had great satisfaction talking with some of the teachers. Happens to be used in Lake Orion, so I've been talking to teachers that used it during the school from home. They've been very happy with the functionality, like the pen add versus a traditional non-touch laptop. The convertible piece is very popular in the classrooms where the teachers can start to use that as a tablet functionality, and you start to have mobile casting where the teacher is moving around the classroom and isn't running back and forth to the instructional station, which has traditionally taken up about 100 square feet of a classroom, as we say, a bunker in the corner. So mobility and the agility, not only within the classroom, but also within the way our teachers are working. And as Dr. Weber said, looking at the administrative, we felt they're equally mobile and moving throughout the building for engagement with the students, engagement with the staff, evaluations, having them with the right tool, and trying to streamline the number of tools we need to support. So going to a singular tool for our administrators, for a good majority of them, that they can undock, go do the work, come back, dock it back into their office as they need, providing them the additional monitor space that would be required. We'll look at reallocating existing devices as we need to in the fall from the administrators and reprovisioning those until they're at life expectancy and usability is no longer there. And then phase 2 with the fall, the BYOD and the students one-to-one. We gave in the board report a detailed summary of the HP devices in the package breakdown to help the board understand exactly what was included. There is some unallocated devices or spares. As we know, we may need some. There will be some breakage and damage to the devices as with any mobile device. And we've tried to allocate a portion for that to monitor that. We'll work with HR and curriculum to update our acceptable use policies to reflect the mobile device and work with our teaching staff to discuss how to best support and maintain the mobile device while it's in their possession. The iPads will be used in our K-1 classrooms as will be the one-to-one device of choice for our early elementary students. They're a very tablet engaged iPad or iPhone generation. And we found that the iPad is the most engaging tool to help support learning in the classroom and about. And we felt the teachers needed to have that additional device for engagement and using the apps that are iPad or Apple exclusive that wouldn't run on their laptops. So making sure the teachers are equipped with the same device as the student is important at that age group. We're happy to take any specific questions regarding the device, the plan, or any concerns the board may have.
Thank you, Jeff. Mr. Mena?
You're muted, Willie.
There you go. Thank you. I do have a few questions. So I noticed on the invoice or on the contract, there are 580 of these laptops, if I can use that term, that are being purchased. Specifically, where are those going to be allocated?
That we have for 463 of your NEA teachers. We also have 7. So obviously that of the NEA, that obviously includes your special education educators as well. You also have 7 physical and occupational therapists under Shaylee Patel. We also have from the Adult Education Center, there are 15 educators that after interviewing Linda Chinfera, director of the program, that have been 15 of the educators have been interacting with the students with video conferencing, finding that they would need that. Same thing, another 15 for your the EC program under Ann Hansen, and then you have 29 for your administrators. That's leaving us with 51 extras, which is generally our 10% for our breakage.
Okay, so the idea is to ultimately not only give our staff more flexibility, but also to kind of get away from desktop computers and give them a laptop that they can take with them, but also dock at their desk or wherever they want to use in their classrooms, right?
Correct. We'll work toward the.
I think it's a great idea. I mean,
instead of giving them 2 devices.
I'm sorry.
Instead of giving 2 devices and having one mobile and one permanently at school underutilized, we go to one device that can be maximized and still try to provide some efficiencies for our staff with supplemental monitors and docking stations and that.
So right now they have their desktop what specifically is this other piece of equipment that you're saying they have besides their desktop?
They have a Chromebook that we issued this year as part of a transition to help staff begin to be more mobile. We found a lot of staff checking out devices either out of the carts or borrowing devices as they went off to meetings and planning, and increasing the familiarity with our students. So if students were having experiences using the Chromebook, the staff had the same experience as we continue to move. Those Chromebooks will be pulled back when we hand over the laptops, and that'll give us a pool of resources that we can re-provision for student use or possibly paraeducators as we need to look at some additional flexibility if we were to go into another shutdown.
Oz, could you stop?
So, I mean, I think
sharing so that we can see everybody?
Perfect, thank you.
if I can continue, if you don't mind. Okay, so again, the idea here is to give staff more flexibility, okay, and have them have one mobile device instead of two mobile devices. And I like the idea. I mean, I don't have a desktop in my entire, I'm sitting behind 3 laptops right now, all with docking stations. But the question I do have is, when I'm looking at this contract, you're purchasing 500 Elite books, HP Elite books, but I only see, unless I'm reading this wrong, I only see 35 docking stations.
Correct. So phase 1 is to put the laptops in the hands of the teachers and not take away their existing desktops. We didn't have time to get into every classroom and evaluate how to handle some of the connections to existing monitors, projectors. We still have some usable life on those desktops. So we're starting with the administrators where we know we can kind of go in and swap out and put the dock and the monitors in. Next year, you'll see a recommendation, I believe, for the docking station and a monitor in the classroom, as we have to figure out a few connections to, say, the smart boards or the projectors.
And Willie, what you noticed there is really our strategy of, I'm incredibly proud of how our staff overnight learned new forms of technology and how to screencast and how to Zoom and everything for our kids. But to lower the anxiety among the teaching staff, they're going to have their old desktop there for a year. And so we can work with them. There's some virtual PD that we can offer to help them become more comfortable with their learning management system and with not only the learning management system, but the computers themselves. So that was a good catch or ask why though on that. And just so you know, to make sure we have this right. So that is Senior Technology Coordinator, Anthony Lucrepio. Anthony, give us a wave. Senior Tech Coordinator for Oakland Field Services. And then Jeff Maas is the Director of Technology, Oakland Field Services. So that's just who they are. But
so
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say just one more comment, and I think there still needs to be some more discussion around the whole idea of one-to-one around students. So thanks for at least giving us a heads up that that's a direction that you're wanting to go in. I know it's slightly out of scope from this specific action item here, but at least put on a docket that we would still like to have a discussion, a more robust discussion on that specific issue going forward, okay?
So Mr. Mena, would you be asking for perhaps a more detailed description of learning management system, like we call it the LMS, but perhaps a broad presentation on the ecosystem we have so parents and community members can better understand it?
That and the fact that even you said it earlier, this is a shift in direction from what we've had previously. So I would like to have a more robust discussion about that going forward, because it's a huge investment for the district.
That's very fair. I think the piece of what COVID has pushed us into. And Jeff and Anthony, if you could please describe to Mr. Mena and the rest of the board, from my understanding in our conversations, because of the investment that our community has made in the devices that we have, it actually would not be an additional spend to put devices in the hands of students. If I'm incorrect, correct away.
So we have enough devices to do a one-to-one with the Novi current investment in technology. Now that will be, part of the future conversation is, again, sustaining and maintaining that, I believe, is what Mr. Mena may be asking it for, understanding the whole big picture of, I'm kind of reading into some of his comments and based upon prior conversations. But our initial investment has already been made, and we actually have more than one-to-one in the district. As we put devices in multiple classes, the movement of students and equipping every classroom with enough devices forces you to purchase more devices just because of scheduling versus a one-to-one where a student has a device with them and the device moves with the student. We're equipping the rooms, so that's where we get enough devices to do the one-to-one.
So your definition of one-to-one isn't necessarily literally handing a device to a student, letting them take home and have control of it in an entire school year, or is it different than what I'm thinking?
Well, we currently have one-to-one, but the student does not take it home. So we have enough devices for every student to have a device. We've equipped every room with one device for every student per hour. So that means we have more devices than we have students in a one-to-one. And I think that's, the part of the conversation is, what does a one-to-one look like given what we've learned from the COVID pandemic and the needs for our students, and being able to shift learning basically overnight and have necessary resources? Does that device stay with the student 24/7, 365? Or is that device going to stay at school and we have to do another handout if we shut down school again for whatever reason moving forward?
I'm sorry, Jeff, part of the reason for this as well is we don't want our students to lose some of the skills that they picked up from the past 12 weeks. But I do believe what I'm hearing, and it does make a ton of sense, is Steve, if you want to get us on the agenda maybe in August, we can put together a presentation on the one-to-one concept as well as a more detailed kind of why behind it. We just felt tonight the reason we're asking for this grace from the board to approve and purchase this evening has to do with supply chain and the ability to get these devices in light of high demand, in wanting to make sure we can get them in the hands of our teaching staff as soon as possible. Therefore, if we do indeed go out again, we'll be ready to go quickly.
I'll give you one more question, and then I'm going to move to Mrs. Hood, who's waving ferociously up there.
Oh, okay. So just two quick comments. My first question initially was going to be, what happens in the fall if everything goes great? We're full bore like we were in previous years. I think that question pretty much got answered, because what we're ultimately saying is that's a moot point. This is something that's a good direction, because in essence, we're replacing two devices with one and giving staff more flexibility. And then the other question that I just want to make sure, the funding for this is coming out of the previous bond, the remaining funds that we had in our previous bond, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mena. Mrs. Hood?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Dr. Weber, when he does his presentation in August, I would like to have included the bigger environment. So I don't understand when we send laptops home with our instruction team, so they're using their own Wi-Fi at home, do they VPN in for internet access, or do they have open internet access? And the same thing if we're allowing kids to take devices home, how do we throttle, I guess it's not speed-wise, but content-wise, what are we doing to throttle where they may or may not go? So you don't have to answer it now, but I would like to have some understanding of that.
We can certainly do that. Thank you, Ms. Hood.
Thank you.
I think she said Mr. Cook.
I did.
Every now and then you cut out, Dr.
I know. I think it's the internet in here.
In 15-16, we pushed really hard to get a technology plan. And I, for one, am glad to see that we haven't just stuck with that exact plan. We've reviewed it. We've taken a look at it as technology changes, and we're upgrading and changing the technology we're providing, in addition to the number of pieces of technology we're providing. And I applaud the technology group for doing that. It's you're making my mouth water with these devices the way you're describing them. So I for one sit at my work with a laptop into a docking station because I end up taking it with me all the time to every place I go. So the teachers, I've seen them in meetings struggle to get onto the system so that they could get into their Google Classroom and get their paperwork up. So I think this will streamline it and help us out. So
thank you. Thanks for noticing that, Paul. The agility that we have, because we have a Board of Education that supports the types of purchases, but also the confidence we have in being able to put plans like this and come to you all and have you notice and know what we're doing. I really appreciate Anthony and Jeff and their team really did a heck of a job in short notice to get this going. And I can't help but thank Wanda. I doubt she's watching board meetings anymore. But Ms. Ciancio was really a huge part of making sure our infrastructure was here for this. So thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Roney?
Just real quick, are we customizing these HPs, or is this more of a standard and you just laid out, what the extras are?
We've done a little bit of customization, the base unit, and then we've added a little additional memory and upgraded the hard drive. We've tried to focus on the pieces that are a little harder to replace down the road and tried to build in a little expandability. And there's pieces that are easier to replace as technology evolves, like memory, that we can do upgrades down the road should things require additional memory. So we tried to balance the initial purchase with the expandability.
Okay, and these will be available for us in September with that customization?
Right now there's a 6 to 12 week lead time. The part is not the customization it's an Intel processor. So we've been working with the manufacturer's rep to try and see the supply chain, and that was part of the initial request of why we came to you tonight for action.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Murphy.
Yes.
I was actually, did we get a motion yet?
We didn't. We were actually breaking the rules a little because we never had an information discussion. We wanted to give them an opportunity to present their plan and see if this is something the board would like to take up in action.
Okay. I appreciate that. I was just going to say, I obviously COVID, everybody's had to be incredibly flexible with many, many, many different things, including the technology there at the ESB. Dr. Ruskin being flexible with different devices and so forth. So I can certainly appreciate that we may need to be a little flexible in order to make this happen. So I would certainly be comfortable supporting it. I appreciate the discussion and also, just kind of how we have shifted and, technology makes changes happen awfully fast these days. So it's not surprising to me that we'd be kind of shifting into maybe a one-to-one, but I do appreciate the need maybe for additional discussion so we all understand kind of the direction we're going with our technology and really what it might look like even later if there's any thoughts about that. So if there's nobody, I would make a recommendation if that's okay with the board.
That would be great. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay. I would recommend it that in the best interest of the Novi Community School District, the Board of Education award the purchase of device refresh in the amount of $512,164.10 to Intercom PSG and in the amount of $35,700 to Apple Incorporated to be paid out of the funds from the 2014 Capital Project Bond Funds.
Support.
Recommendation by Mrs. Murphy and supported by Mr. Smith. I just wanted to make a comment too. I appreciate the technology team in all the hard work and the quick pace in this. I also appreciate the board in allowing something to come straight to action without information and discussion as we usually do. I think that this is important. This is a silver lining in the COVID that we found a need, and we have a great team in place that can be proactive and look at our needs and get us set up and ready to roll in September, no matter what situation we are presented with. So I appreciate the board and the team and Dr. Weber for your forethought and bringing this to us in a timely manner so it doesn't push out into August and now we're waiting till October and November to have what our students and our staff need. So is there any more comments or discussion before we take a vote? Mrs. Murphy? Nope, you're just getting ready to vote? Okay. Mr. Mena, I think that we are ready for a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cook?
Yes.
Trustee Hood?
Yeah.
Trustee Mena? Yes. Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Roney?
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
7-0. Thanks again. We appreciate you.
We can't, on behalf of the staff and the students, we can't thank you enough. We had teachers who were making document cameras on stacks of books using their iPhones, and these devices allow teachers to actually write on them and they're not going to have to. I know that I've shared with a couple staff members that we were considering this, and they were absolutely blown away, one almost in tears, that they were going to have the potential to have a device of this quality that they don't have to worry about anything. So sincerely, thank you very much, each of you.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. Next on our action items, we have the voluntary severance proposal. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. We bring this to the board tonight as part of our budget process. As you know, you approved a budget that identified that there would be a 5% reduction in our salary cost for next year. One of the ways that we potentially can do that is by offering a voluntary severance plan to teachers who are at the top of our scale, and they would exit with a total cost that would be significantly higher than the cost of retaining some of our younger teachers. And so instead of laying off teachers, we are coming to the board to request that we are allowed to offer a voluntary severance plan to our teaching staff. The voluntary severance plan was created to act as a benefit and an opportunity for those eligible Novi Education Association bargaining unit members, as spelled out in the attached letter of agreement. The plan will assist eligible members who have a longevity step 21 or higher, as set forth in the 2017 to 2020 Novi Education Association agreement. In order for this plan to be effective, there must be a minimum of 15 participants. If approved, the voluntary severance plan shall be effective beginning June 18th, 2020, and shall terminate August 2nd, 2020. The voluntary severance plan is being presented to the Board of Education tonight for approval. Dr. Kinzer worked with our legal team to make sure that we created a package that fit all the legal parameters. You'll notice the dates of June 18th to August 2nd. We have to give our staff 45 days to consider the proposal as per law. And that's why we have those dates. And again, we bring this to the board tonight without having brought it to you before for discussion, because this was a plan that was in process for several weeks, but we didn't finalize it until recently. And so we did not have an opportunity to get it to the board earlier. We bring it to the board tonight in hopes that you will approve it so that we can then work with our Novi Education Association membership to see if there are any interested members who might be willing to take this proposal. Dr. Kinzer has additional insight he can offer as well. Dr. Kinzer?
I would say this was a collaborative effort with NEA leadership, and definitely has great potential to help cut into what could potentially be a very large deficit that we're looking to fill. It does go without saying, although I'll say it anyway, there's potential to lose some fantastic teachers. Each board meeting when I present the personnel report, you're sad to see a lot of our retirees go, and that's the downside of this. But in the situation we're in, it is a very effective, potentially effective strategy to positively impact our budget situation in a way that does not take away from instruction. And it also, I think, has the added benefit of potentially not putting us in a position where we won't have to consider layoffs, which certainly would do wonders for the culture of our district moving forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Again, this is hasn't been on the board table before, so if no one has an objection, I'd like to have a discussion and have Dr. Kinzer answer some questions to make sure that this is an action item that the board is willing to take up. So is everybody okay with that? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Smith?
Gary, I'm sure you had a projection of how many teachers are even eligible for this. And then based on that list, I'm assuming that you've made a guess of how many of those that are eligible might actually pull the trigger on it. What are those numbers, please?
So 140 NEA members are eligible. When I say eligible, that just means they meet the criteria. That is not to suggest that a lot of them really are in a position to take advantage of it. It's very difficult to venture a guess as to how many people would actually participate, but in conversation with NEA leadership, I feel like reaching our minimum of 15 is very reasonable. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 25. But again, there's no way to really know that.
And from a percentage standpoint, what is that, close to 20% of the teachers?
We have approximately 425 teachers.
Right.
So about a third are eligible.
And is it my understanding, I might get the percentages wrong, but in our district right now, a full third or 35% of our teachers have been in our district for less than 3 years? Give or take?
Yeah, I would say no. That estimate's high, but I would say in the first 5 years.
So we could be looking at a relatively significant turnover within our teachers. We could approach up to 40 to 50% of our, okay.
Mrs. Hood?
Yeah, quick question. So the volunteer, let's see, to be effective, we need 15. So does that mean if we have 14 who apply, we won't enact this?
That's the way the proposal is written. However, there is language that would give the board the opportunity to waive a minimum if they so choose.
So we would come back to the board in August. It expires August 2nd. If we get 14, we would come back to the board on August 6th and ask the board if they would waive that requirement. And we would be able to identify the financial impact in our district at that point. But in order for it to move forward, we would have to get 15 without further board approval.
Okay, and then secondly, had you thought about putting a maximum on this?
So we did give that some consideration, and as the potential budget deficit is large, we don't want to. It would be difficult to decide where to put that. I know 140 teachers sounds like a lot, but many of those teachers I don't think would seriously consider this. I don't know that. I mean, certainly that's something we could further consider. I wouldn't want to put it too low, though. I mean, I'm not sure what the magic number would be.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Murphy? You're on mute still.
No, I've been through this once before. I know that it was advantageous during the earlier budget cuts to the district, and certainly allowed us to preserve some of the things that we wanted to preserve at that point in time. So it's something that I would support. Obviously, reluctant to lose a lot of our teachers would be, that institutional knowledge again, and the mentorship and some of those things that our highly qualified teachers bring to the table and bring to our district. I would hate to lose all of that, but obviously these are some different times. So I would be supportive of approving the plan as presented.
Thank you. Mr. Meno, did you have your hand raised or?
I did. I have a few questions. Dr. Kinzer, how many retirements were built into the budget previously?
In the budget that you passed this tonight? I'm not sure I understand.
That would be, yes, it would be for the budget we passed tonight.
I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm not sure if Deanna is still on the call or not. She is. Do you know, Deanna?
I am still on the call. None of the retirements were a factor. I just took what was currently in the March amendment and then made the reductions off of that. So none of the retirements were in that.
Historically, in our district, we have anticipated between 5 and 10 retirements a year. As we prepare our budget this year, because of the uncertainty, we took a different approach. We currently have 3 retirements, and so those 3 would be eligible, and so we would need 12 others to reach the 15. But historically, Mr. Mena, we have anticipated between 5 and 10 retirements a year to make our budget work.
And normally these folks that retire are always at that step level, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we were at 3 people who actually are going to really hit it lucky here. So that's great for them. And how does this affect some of the talk that we had about a 5% cut in our budget?
Yep. As you look at the budget, we have buckets, and one of the buckets is salary cost. And so one of the ways that we can reduce our salary cost is by either reducing the number of people that we have employed in the district or reducing the overall cost of those employees. And so we anticipate that if this were to go through, this would potentially save the district anywhere between $800,000 and $1.2 million, and that would reduce that salary bucket. And so we would be able to retain employees whilst not increasing our salary cost and actually decreasing our salary costs. And so that's the reason that we bring this proposal to the board this evening.
So just for the purpose of clarity, this particular action item would reduce or eliminate the need for that 5% cut.
Yes, there still might, for example, we've divided up the salary buckets, if you will. We have a cost for teachers, we have a cost for administrators, we have a cost for secretaries and parapros. And so each of those salary buckets we're looking to reduce by 5%. If in any of those buckets, whether it be the administrator, the teacher, if we can reduce by greater than 5%, that would reduce the impact on other groups within the district. Some of the groups were, quite frankly, not interested in reducing their salary cost because we don't believe their salary costs can be reduced much further without us impacting the attractiveness of those positions. And so we're looking to save primarily in the teacher and the administrative area across the board to make up that 5% salary reduction.
And the last thing, just for clarity's sake as well, this is eligible to NEA members only, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Mrs. Murphy?
I just wanted to clarify what what I thought I heard Dr. Matthews say, which was that while this may not erase the entire 5%, because obviously we don't know how many people will take it, but there could be a reduction that would allow us flexibility in some of those other 5% pockets.
Correct.
Is that accurate? Okay, so it's not erasing the entire 5% necessarily, but depending on how many take it, it could reduce it significantly.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think that we're ready for a motion. We can certainly have more comment if we need to after we bring a motion to the table. So, Mrs. Murphy, I saw you turn off your mute, so I'm pretty sure you're ready to roll.
I'll make the motion that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve the voluntary severance plan as presented.
I'll support.
Motion by Mrs. Murphy, supported by Mrs. Roney. Is there any more discussion or comments? I mean, I would just like to say, I know this is very hard times. These are very hard decisions. We certainly don't want to lose high quality institutional knowledge teachers who've committed their careers to Novi. The thing I do think is positive about this is that we are giving them the opportunity and the flexibility so that we are not having to make choices for the staff like they are already doing in other districts. So I think this will give them some flexibility to make some decisions about their career and their future. So I think that certainly is a positive in these tough times. Mr. Mena?
Yeah, a couple of things. Given that this may come back to us again, right? If we don't reach a number, we come close. Is there any way that we can sort of get because I got to be honest with you, I'm kind of flying blind here, right? I think we've built enough trust in our administration over the last few years to, we're kind of taking your word for it here. I'm flying blind because I'm not looking at any short-term or long-term financial analysis on this here. I'm hoping maybe the next time we discuss this, if it comes before us again, because we have to make an adjustment because of not reaching that amount, we could have that information in front of us.
Certainly.
So what I'm hearing maybe is, Gary, if indeed we get to July, which will be our next board meeting, and we have a general idea of maybe needing to make some adjustments. I mean, we won't know exactly, but we may have a better idea by then. We can bring it back on information and discussion to give some opportunity before the August 2nd. Mr. Mena, did I speak wrong?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to ask if magic happens and we get any relief between now and whenever, does something change here? I mean, how does that affect stuff? How does that affect our direction here?
Yep. The teachers, if they were, if by magic, by August 2nd, we got a pot of, it became clear we weren't going to have a reduction. Teachers can, if they had opted in, they can opt out when they give us their notice, they have 7 days to opt out. And so if somebody came to us and said, on July 1st, I'm going to retire, take the voluntary severance, they would have 7 days to give us that. If within a month, the financial circumstances of the district change dramatically, we could review with the NEA whether or not we wanted to change the terms of this agreement at all. But certainly, we don't anticipate that happening, but if, as you said, something dramatic did happen, we could work with the NEA to try to figure out a solution to see if those teachers still wanted to retire or if they wanted to change their minds.
So we don't really know. We won't know whether we hit 15 until we hit that opt-out date, correct?
We will, as I said, once a teacher tells us, they have 7 days to opt out. And so if they tell us July 1st, by July 8th, they're on the list. And so we'll keep a running list, and we'll keep the board apprised as we move forward.
Thank you.
Mrs. Murphy?
I just want to ask one more quick question. Kind of came to my mind, and I apologize because you might require. Are other districts already doing this? I guess is my question. I've seen that there's some that are already laying off. That seems harsh and maybe somewhat premature. But is this something that other districts are looking at? Do you know, Dr. Matthews?
I'll let Dr. Kinzer take the first stab, and then I'll fill in some blanks as well.
Okay, and I do apologize. Mr. Mena's questions kind of prompted me to think that maybe I don't know, maybe we're, go ahead, Gary.
I'm unaware of specific numbers of, I couldn't throw out a number of districts that are doing this. It is an approach that, as you mentioned, is often utilized in very challenging budget times. I'm sure there are, a good number of districts that are in some part of the planning process, whether they already have it implemented or they're discussing it. I'm sure districts are considering it just as we have. I'm not sure of the number. I certainly, like you, hear of districts that are already notifying teachers of layoffs. And I certainly feel this is a much more positive approach than that.
I would support what Dr. Kinzer said. From the conversations I've had with superintendents throughout the state, I know that there are a handful of districts that are considering this option. But from our perspective, our goal is to continue to provide high quality educational experience for the students in Novi. One of the ways we do that is by maintaining the programs and the staff that we have. So when you're looking at a potential budget deficit of $4.6 million as you head into the 2020-2021 school year, you have choices to make. Our choice is to try to maintain our programming and our staffing levels so that we can continue to provide the services that we provide the students in Novi. We've built up our interventionists, we built up our social workers, we built up our small class sizes. All of those things are important in our district. And how do we continue to maintain those services is by trying to manage our budget in such a way that we don't dismantle that, but instead we continue to provide those services for the community members in the Novi Community School District. And so other districts I know of are considering this, but I think it's a proactive approach if the board approves it, for us to continue to provide that high quality added value experience that people have when they live in the Novi Community School District.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. I have one quick question. So Dr. Kinzer, will you be bringing a personnel report to us with any retirements in this bucket prior to August 2nd, or no, you will not?
No, the terms of the agreement require that the actual retirement date be effective August 2nd. So I don't anticipate doing that. I'm kind of thinking about your question though as I'm answering it. So is the July meeting scheduled do we have a date?
We do.
What is the date?
July 16th, and then our next meeting after that will not be until August 6th and August 20th.
So we would need to have the participants in this plan to notify us by July 9th so that the 7-day window of time has elapsed. So I guess I will give that some thought and give you an answer as soon as possible, whether that might be able to happen.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cook?
These are hard times, and giving our higher seniority teachers the option is, one of the better ways to do this. The worst part about this is we're losing our mentors for those younger teachers. having experience with a younger teacher who hadn't developed the classroom acumen to deal with some difficult students that more experienced teachers had is, we're going to be taking a step back in some of this, but it's just it's sad that we have to go through this, but at least we're doing it where we can maintain and not have to prune the tree too much. So,
well, thank you for your very respectful observation there. I think what we're trying to do, as Gary and Steve have said, is to preserve the culture of our district, the programming that we've invested in, to not do these draconian cuts. And Bobby, what you said, I think is right on. Some people are hitting the panic button and laying people off right now. However, Paul, what you said is one of the things that very few people talk about in these situations is we're going to lose incredible teachers who have been with us for so long and touched so many lives. And the older I get, I think the more I appreciate experience in life and what that really provides. And thanks for noting that. I just think it's while we're trying to preserve everything, the hard reality is that we're have the potential to lose some of our very best teachers.
And keep turning your face sideways, RJ. We get to see those gray sideburns that.
Oh yeah, I got my first haircut in 3 months today. They're barely the hair.
Mr. Cook, I want to just comment on that as well. While I've only been in Novi for almost 3 years, and I have not worked for years and years and years with our veteran teachers, I've already come to appreciate the tremendous quality they bring to our district. And it does need to be noted that this will be a loss for our district in that regard.
Thank you. Mrs. Murphy, unmute yourself.
I was just going to say one more thing, and then I could make a motion. But it looks like from the information that we got earlier from Dr. Matthews that 15 teachers nets us a savings of $840,000. What kind of, Steve or Deanna, what kind of percentage is that of the salary bucket?
I will get that to the board tomorrow. I have it in another spreadsheet on my laptop at home because I don't have a mobile device that I dock here. I have it at home. So, but I will be able to provide that tomorrow.
Okay, I thought that might be an easy kind of number to kind of take a look at, but that would be, it's a significant savings at 15. And to be able to preserve some of that would be good. So.
And Mrs. Murphy, you already made a motion. I know it's been a long time and we've had a lot of discussion, but we already did. So we're good. We're ready.
We did make a motion?
We did. And Mrs. Roney supported it. Mm-hmm.
You actually made the motion, Ms.
Murphy. Yeah.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay, so if we don't have any more comments or questions, then, okay, seeing none, I think that we are ready for a roll call vote. Mr. Mena.
Trustee Cook.
Yes.
Trustee Hood.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Roney.
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin.
Yes.
And Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. And thank you for your work and your creativity, Dr. Kinzer, and the difficult work that you've done on this. So we'll see how it goes. Next up, we have comments from the audience. Comments from the audience can be any comments that are related to our Board of Education work that we do here in Novi. So if we have any, first we'll start, Dr. Matthews, do you have any Google document comments from the audience?
There were 2 or 3 responses that were shared at the committee meeting this week at the Capital Projects Committee, but there are none for this board meeting.
I do see a couple guests on here that I'd like to acknowledge. So is there any comments from the audience in your regard? If so, we have 5 minutes for each comment. Mr. Mena will set his timer. And as stated before, it can't be a really back and forth discussion, but we are happy to listen to any comments or questions that you may have for the board.
I don't have anything. Just I wrote my letter this afternoon.
Will you just state your name, Marge, for you,
Yeah.
just for the records? Thanks.
Margie Stone. And I sent you guys a letter this afternoon, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys got it. And that was all.
Thank you. I can make comment that we did receive it, and that has been forwarded on to the team. So thank you for that.
And I'll just say hello, Katie Fair-Lindsay. I also made comments, I think Dr. Matthews referenced at the committee meeting recently, and I just want to thank the board for all you do and for taking the time to listen to the community in various things. Specifically, my comments were about the 5th, 6th grade edition, but I appreciate what you do and I appreciate the time you take to listen to the community. I also sent an email to some of you today, so I know you got it because you even responded. So I appreciate that. And so I just wanted to listen in, and wow, you do a lot and I just appreciate it. And thank you all for all you do.
Thank you, Katie. Mr. Mena received, we all did receive it, and Mr. Mena forwarded that on to the team. So we appreciate both Margie and Katie being here and listening in on what we do. We love to actually have community involvement and to hear what's going on here in Novi Community School District. So we appreciate having you sitting on here. Okay, next we will move to committee reports. We have one committee that met since our last meeting. That's the Capital Projects Committee, and I will turn it over to Mr. Mena.
Yes, thank you. We did have a meeting this week, and among the things we discussed were some of the impacts around COVID and how that's going to potentially affect our schedule. We discussed the 2019 bond security consultant recommendation, so that should be coming to the full board soon. We did have an overall update on the bond team. We discussed the summer 2020 project construction, discussed the design approval process, and as was mentioned earlier, we did have an opportunity to listen to some pretty good feedback from the community regarding the Novi Meadows project.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. I'd like to begin by referencing an event that happened last weekend where there were some unfortunate social media posts that identified specific Novi staff in disparaging ways. While we currently have some policies and administrative guidelines surrounding staff and social media, we don't have any policy or administrative guidelines that address the issue that happened last weekend. Next week, we'll talk with our governance and policy committee to try and develop some guidelines that we can communicate to all of our community who use our district's social media platforms. Over the school ended last week, and over the preceding 12 weeks and 13 if you count spring break, we had 59 school days when we were closed. During those 59 days, our technology department deployed over 700 devices to our families. Our food service department provided grab-and-go breakfast and lunches every Tuesday and fed on average over 600 families a week. Our transportation department supported Tuesday food deliveries to 2 apartment complexes, helped deliver caps and gowns to all of our Novi High School seniors, and led celebratory parades in neighborhoods across Novi. Our custodians continued to clean and disinfect and following new and stricter guidelines. Our preschool staff Zoomed with their students and families, with over 75% of those students and families participating. If you think Zooming with adults is fun, you should try it with preschool students. Teachers figured out how to teach and connect virtually with our students. That sentence does not capture the true scope of what our teachers did. It was truly remarkable over the last 13 weeks. Our special education department created a whole new virtual IEP and provided FAPE throughout the pandemic for our special education families. Administrators conducted staff meetings, met with parents, connected with teachers, kept the bond going, and began planning for the future. And finally, our Board of Education met virtually and continues to conduct the business of the school district so that we have not missed a beat. It was truly an unusual and at times exciting, at times frustrating 2019-2020 school year. And I would like to express my appreciation to everyone who helped make it a successful year. I believe that we were very successful in the Novi Community School District. We continued to meet the needs of our students and families. Our community hung with us and supported us. And I think that while we certainly do not want to have to go through this again, we certainly are a stronger community for having gone through what we have gone through. And I would just like to express my deep appreciation for everyone involved. Thank you, Dr. Ruskin.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. And it's not really my turn to talk, but I want to say thank you for your unwavering leadership. We are very lucky and proud to have you here in our school district.
Well, thank you.
So
Nice
next,
to not get those daily updates too.
I can still send them your way, Tom.
next we have administrative reports. We'll start with Dr. Kinzer.
Thank you. I too would like to express gratitude. I feel very blessed to work in a school district like this one, where during very challenging times, teachers, administrators, staff members, board members, the entire school community comes together to attack the problem in a very collaborative, positive way. That's exactly what has happened in the last several months, and it's what will continue to happen this summer as we prepare for another challenging year next year. So while we have challenges in front of us, I am incredibly optimistic that we will rise to the occasion and produce for our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kinzer. And to you, thank you for all you've done behind the scenes and all you continue to do. I know summer's out for people and teachers and students, and you are working away with the rest of your team. So we appreciate it. Dr. Weber, you are up next.
Yes. I was fortunate to be a minor part of a very amazing event last Saturday night that our senior parents put together, the senior all-night party. If you think our kids are crazy, wait until you hear what our parents did. Our parents put together a senior all-night party on Zoom, 350 high school kids at night on a Saturday. Teachers and parents volunteered to have game rooms and so on, and it was awe-inspiring. And you know, what's funny is the kids were checking in prior to it. They saw each other and were chatting for maybe some of the first times in a long time, and they reverted right back to first and second grade. And if you can't get emotional about that, it's just to see, you know, these seniors who are graduated, when they saw their kindergarten pictures, just melted, and it was fantastic. Saying thank you is important, and I got it, being a person who lives here in Novi. My son's involved in activities throughout Novi. The past week, I've bumped into a lot of parents, and you know, you're not really ever sure if you're doing as well as you can as a district and a system, and what can we reach for more and so on. But every single person that I've seen has made an effort to come and tell me how grateful they were for the work our teachers have done, our Board of Education, our superintendent, and all the people behind the scenes that they acknowledged, these parents acknowledged time and time again, that they never fully understood how difficult it was to teach, or how grateful they were for the Zoom scavenger hunts that their K4 kids did on Zoom, or the Schoology platforms and so on. So I'm so incredibly grateful for those parents who trusted us to do as well as we could with their kids, and I thank them for that. As we move forward, just a quick board update. Our team in the Office of Academics, our content area leaders, our building administrators are working on putting together our plans for our return. And we are putting together, the cornerstone of our plan is really a full return. But as that technology purchase came tonight, also with the idea of being prepared if we do have to exit. But to let you know, we're also including student focus groups, actually run and led by students. So 7th and 8th grade and 9th through 12th grade students in the month of July will be meeting via Zoom with Novi High School students who have been trained. And they will be taking feedback from the students of what do we need to do to better meet their needs in these situations. We've also had several parent focus groups as well as surveys. And we have over 150 teachers helping plan for a return to school. So a testament to this community school district is it's truly a community school district. There's not one part of the system that's left out. So much respect to the school board and much love to our families and our students. And I hope our students enjoy their first week of not having to worry about logging on and doing work. Have a nice night.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. And I just want to publicly acknowledge all the work you've done. You've really led a great team of staff, as we've all seen, and there's much, much work to be done. I mean, the question at hand is the return to school, and I know that you and your team will take that and do what's best for our students. So we appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have board communication. We have a quiet bunch tonight. Mrs. Murphy?
Well, my battery's dying, so if I get cut out. But I do want to say, thank you so much to all our administrative staff and our in the cabinet, and as well as our other administrators. I know tuning into those Monday meetings, how many things they're thinking through on every level, and just situations that they've never had to problem solve before. I've been really proud of the critical thinking and the problem solving skills that everyone's been able to utilize, and certainly the resilience that we've shown. So kudos to all of you. I really do hope that you can all take a little bit of time to breathe and put your feet up by a fire, perhaps, Dr. Matthews, or someplace else, just to kind of regroup for yourselves, because I think that you need it. And I think that going through this, that taking a step back at this point and just taking a little bit of time for some, whether it's reflection or whether it's just spending time with your family or something, is going to be really important, because we're going to have to hit the ground running again really soon. So thank you all. And thank you to my fellow board members. It's been interesting tuning in online to see all your faces. And I look forward to the same time that we can get together again in person.
Thank you, Mrs. Murphy. Mrs. Roney, I know you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I have to tell you, I think it was Thursday, when the buses and the cars came through for the 4th grade parade. And I tell you, you heard them beeping like, 20 minutes before they got to our street. And the whole neighborhood came out. It was just wonderful. People that haven't had kids, in 10 years were out there clapping, and it just brought so much excitement. So, I mean, kudos to everyone that, the transportation, to the teachers and the administration, that thought this out and did this. I'm sure the kids, we had a little boy down the street, was out there probably, 45 minutes before the bus came through. I'm sure he was a 4th grader that was just so excited. So, I mean, that was just great. So kudos to everybody. And of course, to everyone for everything we've put up with for the, last 3 months, So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Roney. Mr. Cook?
To piggyback on what Miss Roney said, is that, the parades going through the neighborhoods was a great thing. I didn't know I had that many kids in my neighborhood, because normally they're inside playing their video games, but it got a lot of them out. And the other thing I want to say is kudos to Linda and her crew on the event we attended earlier tonight. Making the best of a bad situation, putting us all outdoors there, and it was it's one of the best events that we get to attend throughout the year, because these are kids and young adults that don't go the traditional way and put in the extra work to get there. So kudos to Linda and her crew.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Mr. Mena?
Yeah, and I took some time. I spent some time with my nephew last week and this weekend, and we went over to the high school and attended the 2020 car parade at the high school, and that was a really, really cool event. I don't know. There were so many cars, so many kids sitting on top of cars, popping out through, through the sunroofs and some convertibles, and it was great. It was so fun that I wouldn't be surprised if we see that happening again in the future. If we end up picking this up as a regular event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mena. Mr. Smith, I saw you with your hand waving.
I just wanted to compliment Mr. Baker and his team at the middle school. I didn't get a chance to visit any of the elementary buildings, but I did take Thomas back to the middle school to clean out his locker. And I just thought they did a great job with how they set up the cafeteria and the different stations to drop stuff off in a picture station. And because Willie mentioned earlier, I saw Mr. Kanais, who was one of Thomas's teachers, and he's announced his retirement for next year. So there's a few people that that timed it right. I want to echo what Mr. Cook said about the event for the Novi Career Prep High School and Adult Education Program ceremony that we attended. I also, as I know several of us, look forward to that event. It is mostly, I think, people between the ages of, let's say, 17 or 18 and 25. But it is career prep and adult education. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look through the program yet, but I was touched by the comments by Wendy Harris, and I just want to share those real quick. She was one of the graduates today that we recognize. And she writes, "My name is Wendy Harris. I'm a wife, mother, grandmother, and a business owner. I've watched 3 of my older children go to college and pursue careers. At 16, I dropped out of high school. I was a teenage mom. I said I would eventually go back, but life happens. No one knew that I didn't graduate. So when I walked into Novi Adult Ed, I was nervous but excited. Diana Hoskins, who we've recognized as this board as an Employee of the Year, was my first contact. She said, and I quote, 'If you're serious about getting your diploma, I'm serious about helping you.' And she put me in contact with the right people to make it happen. To Patricia Hockett, who kept encouraging me throughout COVID-19 to stay focused and to continue my classwork, thank you." So that's, I can't say enough about that program and the value that it has in the lives that it touches. It might not be, 500 kids like we have at the high school, but those 20 to 25 people that graduate every year, to see their families come out and support them on a 90-degree afternoon, it says a lot about our district and our commitment to the people that live here. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. Mrs. Hood?
I'm last, and I just wanted to thank and compliment really everyone in the district for their thoughtfulness as we have worked through, as they have worked through, how do we deliver what we need to deliver to our kids? And they've done it in a thoughtful way, open communication. It just has been, I think Dr. Matthews and his team we have had the best outcome that we could have had in this situation. And I thank everybody in the district. It's just been a worthwhile and gratifying last couple months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hood.
Yeah, I forgot to compliment Katie and Margie for being on the call, to invest 2 hours of their time tonight and be patient and not just drop off after their comments. It's, I don't know you, Katie. I don't think I know Margie for years, and she's been a valuable community member with her involvement in the Scouts and troops through Deerfield, and her and her husband, Jeff, are Deerfield parents as well. So it means a lot. We often will go through meeting after meeting after meeting with no community input. So I appreciate you investing a couple hours of your life tonight. Thank you.
I agree. So I've had the opportunity to attend and celebrate and grieve and all the things that all my fellow board members have as well. So I am not going to keep anyone on the call to repeat and say the same things, but I appreciate all of you. I appreciate your ability to grieve what we've lost, to celebrate what we have, and to think proactively and look into the future. We have some great things ahead, and take some time, like Mrs. Murphy said, to regroup, reflect, and just to continue to do what we do, and that's to be here for our kids and our community. So I appreciate everyone, and I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So
moved.
Oh, wow,
Support.
we're all going to jump on now. Okay, Mr. Menas made a motion, Mrs. Murphy supported, and we will do a roll call vote for the final time tonight, Mr. Mena.
Trustee Cook,
Yes.
Trustee Hood,
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Roney,
Yes.
Trustee Ruskin,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 7-0. So thank you. And again, Katie and Margie, tell your friends to come join us. We would love that. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.